Welcome to California in Focus. This is your host, Kenneth Schrupp, investigative reporter at the Center Square. I'm joined here today by Dave Mason, our Southwest regional editor, who has a story today about Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department and its prisons. Why is the state suing LA County over its prisons?
Well, Los Angeles County has old, aging jail facilities, and they're suing for various reasons, Kenneth. It's a long list. For one thing, it's full of rats and rodents. They've had what the state feels is inadequate nutrition, inadequate food. They've said there has been delays or neglect in healthcare, including medical, dental, and mental health. And as Attorney General Rob Bonta pointed out at a news conference, there have been reports of inmate deaths and suffering, in his words. And Rob Bonta said the state has tried to work with Los Angeles County on this, but Los Angeles County, in the state's view, has not been cooperating. The Attorney General says he has no choice but to sue. The Los Angeles County Correctional Services, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Office, Sheriff Robert Luna, and the Director of Correctional Services.
And I can't help but remember that California or Los Angeles' population has doubled or tripled in the last few decades. And meanwhile, it hasn't built a new prison or jail. So I'm just wondering how is LA County expected to deal with this if it can't build a new prison and it has to reduce the inmate population of the one jail that it does have? What is the solution here?
Well, that's a really good question. And at the same time, they've faced this jail that is overcrowded. I mean, there's no disagreement among anyone that the jail has problems. There's no disagreement that there's been inadequate services, and there's no disagreement that's overcrowded. But the challenge is you have more and more laws, and we have the ramifications of Proposition 36, which is very popular, is approved overwhelmingly by the voters. Those people who will be convicted, they need to be placed somewhere. So where would that be? And the state's trend over the last few years has not to open new prisons, but to close prisons. In fact, Governor Gavin Newsom said during his budget message that he did not anticipate that there would be a permanent increase in inmate population despite Proposition 36. So the big question is, should they build new prisons, and how do they fund it?
Right. And cost, of course, is a concern that a lot of people have. But there are also costs for not putting criminals in prison. Have you been able to see any pushback from either the district attorney's office or criminal victims groups about these efforts to shut down the prison?
I haven't seen that. Well, there has been some pushback. In fact, the Republican legislators I talked to have been upset about Newsom having this trend of closing down prisons at the time that voters approved Proposition 36. As we know, this goes back to Proposition 47, which had made many thefts, thefts of anything below $950 a misdemeanor. And that resulted in an increase in crime because people would just go to the store and steal up to $950 worth of stuff. And it wasn't worth prosecuting. It wasn't worth the law enforcement or the court's time to go after these people. So voters realized, okay, we need to swing the pendulum back the other way. They approved Proposition 36 to be able to apprehend more of the thieves. But now there's been a question about the fact, Newsom has not properly funded Proposition 36. This mandate has been put on the counties to now go out and arrest more of these people. More of the crimes, for the under $950 amount are now felonies for repeat offenders. And there's the money to help them to do that. At the same time, Newsom has continued to call for his trend of closing prisons. And the Republican legislatures are outraged by this. The Republican lawmakers are very upset about this because they say the people's will is that we arrest more of these thieves and stop this chain of retail thefts. I mean, as you know, Ken, it got so bad that you have a lot of smash and grabs where people just go smash in the windows and pull out a bunch of things. There was one notorious case up in the San Francisco Bay Area where a huge crowd of people gone into the same store, an organized effort, and smashed and stole a bunch of stuff. So there seems to be a clash of wills on this. Now, the sheriff's office has responded to the lawsuit, claiming that they think the lawsuit is outdated. They feel like they have made a lot of progress, and they are continuing to make progress. So as I said, nobody disagrees that there's a problem. Everyone knows that the Los Angeles County jails are in a terrible shape. Nobody's disputing that. They're just disputing about how much they've done on it. The sheriff's office said that it spent about $390 million on upgrades to its jail facilities. They've said they've hired additional staff. They've tried to improve the food programs. They distributed thermal undergarments, because one of the complaints about the jail is that the temperatures vary, that it can be really cold or too warm. And the sheriff's office pointed out that they have added some projects for suicide prevention in the cells and showers. And they said they provided over 1 million documents in response to trade 3 subpoenas, and they fulfilled over 1,000 specific requests. So it sounds like the sheriff's office is saying they're doing everything they can. The state is saying they're not doing enough, and they're suing them to do more.
Well, Dave, thanks for your time on this story. It seems like we got a classic problem of plenty of money to go around, but it's not being spent where it should be. So you can keep up with this story and more at thecentersquare.com. This has been Californian Focus with Dave Mason and Kenneth Schrupp.